Anyway, I did speak with somebody at the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, and he also expressed some of the frustrations that he has. So I want to go over them very briefly, because some of the frustrations that he expressed, we talked a little bit, and I had some suggestions, and I wanted to just put them out there. I don't know whether these will be accepted or not. I kind of doubt it, because what is happening right now is that we have lobbyists for attorneys that want to make sure that the attorneys are being protected. They will write laws. Attorneys serve in the legislature. They write laws to protect themselves. They write laws also to benefit their practices later on. But anyway, to go back to what the State Commission on Judicial Conduct told me, one of the main issues that they have is the lack of resources. Their caseload over the last 20 years has doubled. And during the last 20 years, the funding and the resources they've been given have not doubled. The actual staff, I believe, has been cut by 2 people from what it was in 2003. So I think there's 16 people right now, and that's 2 fewer than what they had back in 2003. Their caseload is also compounded by the fact that the Scjc, the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, now need to investigate complaints against judicial candidates running for office. So this is another one of these unfunded mandates that we as people in Texas voted on. Now, I did not vote for this, but many people did. It's obviously got passed. So how do we fix this thing? We have unfunded mandates. We have people who work on the State Commission on Judicial Conduct who used to be able to do their work in 8-hour days, and now they're having to work on the weekends, and they're still not caught up with things. The legislature needs to know that they need to increase funding, and I do have a spreadsheet right here. If I have this correctly, it's been a couple of days since I've looked at this, but the funding for the State Commission on Judicial Conduct is about $1.2 million, approximately $1.2 million. Salaries and wages are about $1,030,000, about 84% of that, and there's another $80,000, which is 6.5% for travel. So 90% of the funding for the State Commission on Judicial Conduct goes to salaries and wages and also to travel. And by the way, it also says the number of full-time equivalents down at the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. I was being too generous. It's actually 14. It's not 16 to 18. Currently it's 14. I believe it was 16 in 2003. So they do have some other operating expenses down here as well. But the problem is this. They have this agency that is designed to supposedly make sure that the judiciary is acting in a manner appropriate and consistent with their obligations that they have sworn to do, the judicial conducts, the judicial canons that they are supposed to uphold. They don't have enough people to investigate all of the complaints, nor do they have enough funding to actually carry out their duty. And one of the problems he said is that, he said, Jeff, when we want to investigate these judges, when somebody files a complaint that appears to be a legitimate complaint, and he said approximately about 75–80% of the complaints from his perspective are not legitimate. They're upset with the decision. That's not what they investigate. They investigate whether the judge is actually acting in accordance with the judicial canons. That he said we have to go and we have to request transcripts. So they have to take their money and buy transcripts. If somebody sends them transcripts, it helps them to determine whether there is actually evidence to find out that a judge has acted contrary to his or her judicial obligation. We get the complaints. We don't have the evidence that we can look at really to make a solid case. And because if you make a complaint against a judge, or if they want to take an action against a judge, the judge has an opportunity to rebut it. And basically they can also get a de novo trial over the whole thing too. So apart from evidence, it's just not going to work very well for them. This needs to be fixed. I believe that these judges should be able to get free transcripts from the courts. That if somebody goes into a courtroom and says, hey, I've witnessed this, I'm making the complaint to you, that the State Commission on Judicial Conduct should be able to go in there and say, Judge so-and-so, on this date, this trial, we need this transcript and we need it from you for free in order to conduct our investigations. So they do have the lack of funding, but they also have the lack of staffing. As I mentioned, 14 people that are investigating, in charge of investigating every complaint that arises throughout the entire state of Texas. So lack of resources is a problem, and I said, how do we address this issue? I've got a suggestion here that I think the legislature should consider and should pass. For example, the lack of resources. Currently, many of the family court judges make more than the governor of the state of Texas and the Attorney General of the state of Texas. The governor of the state of Texas and the Attorney General both make approximately $154,000 to $155,000. A family court judge, a tenured family court judge, makes $168,000 a year. The middle of the line tenured people, they make about $154,000. The new family court judges make approximately $140,000 a year. So my thinking is this: if you're in business, you have to set aside a certain amount of money to have your books audited, especially if you're a public corporation. These judges work for us. They think that, well, you know, they may think that they're God of their courtroom, but they work for us. We are the taxpayers of the state of Texas. We pay their salaries. Every single judge, out of the salary that they're given from the state of Texas, must contribute 2%, just 2%, a measly 2% of their gross salary to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, so that immediately, if they did this, it would immediately double the budget for the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. Instead of 1.2 to 1.3 million, it would be more like about 2.6 or 2.7 million that they would have immediately. That would double their budget. And what I would call that is, that's a good start. They need to have a lot more than double. They need to have at least 5 to 10 times, but that's a good start. And I think that the very people, these judges who say, hey, we believe that, you know, we're doing everything right, well, okay, we'll take you at your word, but your word has value to us if you're willing to put your money out there as well. A measly 2% of your gross salary. If you're making $168,000 a year, seriously, I mean, is $3,200, $3,300 going to really harm you that badly? Come on, you can do this because you want the public to trust you. And you do not want the public to think, oh, these guys are tyrants. No, you are willing to spend a measly 2% to give to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct so that we can make sure that you as a judge are actually a judge of integrity, not a judge who runs his own court as if he or she is a tyrant. So that's the first thing that I would look at. But there's another thing that I would look at. Law firms love to contribute to judges in their judicial campaigns. And of course, you know, the law firms will tell, no, we're not buying judges. We're not giving this judge money knowing that if we appear before him, you know, we've given him $5,000 or who knows how much they've given him. But, you know, we're not saying that, hey, judge, you know, remember all this money that we gave you? We're expecting a little favor from you. We're expecting you to rule on our behalf. Of course, the law firms would never, ever want that to be the case, nor the perception. So my suggestion would be that for every dollar that the law firm contributes to a judge's campaign, the law firm should contribute an equal amount to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, just to make sure that there's no conflict of interest between the law firms and the judges. No conflict of interest. We don't want conflict of interest. For every dollar that they give to a judge, they should also give a dollar to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. Lawyers often charge $500 an hour. So all we're doing is saying, hey, you know, you're making all of this money off of people. You're financially raping people. You know, I think that some of this money that you're getting, all of these profits that you're getting, that, you know, all of the salary that you're bringing in, you're raking in, certainly, I mean, if you're buying judges, we need to know this. And if you're not buying judges, just put it dollar for dollar to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. The law firms have a vested interest in making sure that justice, not some type of shenanigans, not some type of backroom deals, not some type of injustice, are occurring in our courts. So between the judges contributing a measly 2% and the law firms, if they want to support a good judge, and if we want to make sure that, hey, this judge, the law firm's not buying this judge, I think it's only right that dollar for dollar, the monies that are donated by the law firms to the judicial campaigns, there should be a dollar for dollar match to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct to make sure that we uphold the integrity of our courts, because of course these lawyers, they stand for integrity. They'll swear to you they stand for integrity. They may be lying to your face, but you know, of course we stand for integrity. We would never pull shenanigans. If you watch them, you would know immediately that that's not true, and you would understand my bit of sarcasm regarding them. Another solution that I had here was for the lack of resources of the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. I believe that the legislature should allow them to hire at least 8 more people. 8 additional people. And I would also say too, let them provide internships. They may be unpaid internships, whatever, but I mean, they need staff. They need people down there to help them. The interns would do a great job of ferreting through some of these these complaints brought before the commissions so that the commission could actually focus on the ones that need to be focused on. We don't want them doing frivolous work. We can hire new people, we can hire interns to let them do some of the stuff that might be frivolous. The State Commission on Judicial Conduct needs to investigate these judges to make sure that our courts are acting with integrity.